Recently, Alien Earth introduced 4 new species that fans are eager to explore in more detail. The 2025 series covers a tragic event. A ship owned by Weyland-Yutani crashes into Earth. Since the ship has been collecting aliens for decades, it accidentally released xenomorphs and other species onto the planet. Now the heroes must fix the situation, or at least survive it. The Alien franchise began in 1979 with Ridley Scott's Alien, and since then, the xenomorphs have become one of the most iconic and terrifying monsters on the big screen. 46 years later, the extraterrestrial has evolved in many different ways, but it remains the stuff of nightmares. This is a lobster-like organism with a long head devoid of eyes, often displaying its teeth as if it were kinda smiling. There are 4 stages to the life of a xenomorph, and no, baby xenomorphs are not any cuter or less dangerous than their adult form. The initial form of a xenomorph comes from an egg, and they are called facehuggers. The young creature looks incessantly for a host. Attaching itself to their face, it uses its tail to hold on to the other being's airway. And that's when it inserts the embryo through a particular tube in the person's or animal's throat. So, being completely honest, facehuggers are way creepier than the adult xenomorphs. This is the most common facehugger, but characters might also encounter royal facehuggers, giant facehuggers, and infected facehuggers, each providing a type of horrific death. The royal facehugger inserts a queen xenomorph embryo, while the giant ones protect the overmorphs, the eggs, and help the facehuggers catch their victims. The infectoid type fuses itself to the host instead of inserting the embryo. This gives way to a strange and particularly disturbing zombie-like xenomorph. In the most common scenario, once the embryo is inside the host, the facehugger dies, and the host enters a coma state. The host will stay awake for a couple of hours, driven by a great hunger that likely provides food for that xenomorph growing up inside them, and this is when things get truly upsetting. The fully developed xenomorph embryo, known as a chestburster for the obvious and upsetting reasons, is now ready to leave the host, and it will do so in an excruciatingly painful way. It's even been spoofed in Spaceballs. Since chestbusters live in the host's chest, they will chew through it to escape. They shatter the ribcage, a particularly agonizing experience. The host typically does not survive, with one notable exception, Emil Zorn, who received an artificial torso to survive in the Aliens Advent Terminus comic book. In the original film, that classic scene has Kane die right in front of them as the chestbuster comes out. We all know what being caught by a facehugger means, but back then, it was the very first time, and no one saw it coming. To make the scene more realistic, the rest of the actors were equally surprised, so the shock on their faces is very much real. The good thing is that this is the least dangerous form of xenomorph. People can even kill it by breaking the neck, if they can catch it. The chestbuster is impressively fast, and it will look for a safe place to reach adulthood, when it becomes almost impossible to kill. All of this is seen in the 1979 Alien movie when the xenomorph was showcased as a perfect predator hiding in the shadows. Relishing the fact that the audience didn't know what was coming, it was only the crew of the Nostromo ship being chased by the unknown other, the OG xenomorph. It was as well when the xenomorph's well-known design was first shaped, created by artist H.R. Geiger, and turned into the iconic image for the whole franchise. This first look carried throughout the following films, with minimal tweaks over the years, except for some more terrifying variants. As the sequel came in 1986, Aliens, James Cameron had to make things a tad bit more interesting. You thought there was nothing worse than a murderous, powerful alien chasing you in a confined ship? Well, what about a xenomorph twice its size with extra arms and much greater speed and intelligence? Yeah, that's enough to freak anybody out right there. They upped the ante in this second film. However, that's not all. The powerful xenomorph, known as the Xenomorph Queen, is the leader of the hive. Basically, she controls all the other xenomorphs. To make matters worse, she's in charge of laying those creepy eggs. Cute, right? Then, David Lynch's Alien 3 was released, and with it, a new horrifying trait about the xenomorphs came along. We all knew by then that the Xenomorphs needed a host to reproduce, but what we definitely didn't know was that they actually take some of the host's DNA to fully form. All the Xenomorphs up to this point were humanoids because they came from humans, but Alien 3 changed that. Not only can Xenomorphs choose any number of hosts, human or not, but they will take their shape. If human-like Xenomorphs are terrifying, get ready to learn about the Runners, Xenomorphs that use an animal host. In Alien 3, our characters have the unfortunate experience of encountering a Xenomorph who used a dog, or maybe an ox, depending on your favorite cut of the movie, to reach chestburster state. Okay, let's be honest. Humans are impressive, but they are also one of the weakest creatures on Earth. With a dog for a host, runners are much faster and more agile. They might be slightly less intelligent, but they also have DNA that is trained to prey and kill, so they are particularly lethal. Xenomorphs take a spectacular turn in Alien Resurrection. 200 years after the events of the previous film, scientists not only managed to clone Ellen Ripley, but also the Queen Xenomorph within her, which she had tried to destroy when she sacrificed herself. After numerous attempts, a strange hybrid human and xenomorph, along with new human-like xenomorphs that possess remarkable intelligence. Yay! Things get even creepier when the Queen Xenomorph cloned inside Ripley starts to take on a bit of a human form as well. It develops a mammal reproductive system and gives birth. That's how we get the newborn, a sort of human xenomorph hybrid. Do you think that's better? Well, it's much uglier than its cousins and acts like a vicious child. Sounds pretty much like normal parenthood. 15 years later, Ridley Scott takes the franchise to its bare origins with Prometheus, way before the events from Alien. Scientists visit the moon LV-223 to understand humanity's origin. There, we learn about engineers, aliens who commenced human life, a lethal black goo, the trilobites, proto-facehuggers, and the Deacon, the creature that would eventually evolve into the Xenomorph. These are not new aliens in the franchise, but the first hints at what will ultimately haunt the universe. Covenant continues the plot from Prometheus, introducing other aliens that bridge the gap between proto-xenomorphs and the full aliens from the 1979 film. Finally, the last prequel film, Romulus, delves into more xenomorph events between Alien and Alien 3, so no more new vicious aliens in this one. This is precisely why Alien Earth introducing new monstrous aliens is such a fantastic twist. After so many prequels, this show is set in the future. As the Alien franchise expands, its creepy creatures change, evolve, and some new ones even make their way into the movies and TV shows, returning to the sense of novelty and terror from the first 3 films in the Alien franchise. The so-called Eye-Octopus looks exactly as you expect. It's an eyeball with protruding tentacles that moves quickly, sometimes even altering its pupil and even how many it has. The Eye-Octopus is also known as Especius 64 or T. Ocellus, and what the T stands for, I'm not even gonna butcher with saying. The alien basically chooses a new host and climbs onto its face. Then, the T. Ocellus rips one of the host's eyes and lodges into it, taking the available spot. After making a home in the eye socket, the Eye-Octopus uses its tentacles to take over. It basically reaches towards the brain, taking absolute control of its host. The horrifying Eye-Octopus is also incredibly fast, which means it can take over a new host in seconds and override their brain almost instantly. It can take more than humans. In fact, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation experimented using sheep. The scientists working with the Ocellus discovered that this parasite can take over any living being with a brain. In the series, it controls a sheep and a cat, for example. The sheep is alive, but the cat, Rascal, isn't. This creature can take over corpses and reanimate them as creepy, staring zombies. In only its first appearance on the show, the T. Ocellus turned the beloved pet on the Maginot into a living dead. If the T. Ocellus can control any creature, what if it attaches itself to another dangerous alien, making it 2 times worse? The T. Ocellus gets its name inspired by a type of flatworm that needs different species to parasite on throughout its life cycle. Depending on its phase, it has a different host. Given this, we can't help but wonder if this alien will evolve into something creepier in the future. Xenomorphs seem to get scarier with time. But even with the possibility of Eye-Octopus getting bigger, the creepiest thing about them is the fact that they're incredibly smart. These creatures have human-like intelligence, and they can solve problems, which means it's difficult to escape them or capture them. The Eye-Octopi use their brains to decide the best host available, and they mercilessly take over. Since they're basically a living eyeball, nothing can escape them. Alien Earth has some great scenes from the Ocellus perspective that show how fast they can scan their surroundings. It's chilling to see their abilities. There are a lot of signs that this eye alien will be the next big alien species. First, there's the potential evolution we discussed already, but additionally, these creatures are truly crafted to freak us out. Noah Hawley, the writer, director, and producer of the show, told The Hollywood Reporter that the octopi getting into the eyes is a trait that plays into a natural genetic revulsion. After all, everyone is very sensitive about how squishy eyeballs are. Additionally, Alien Earth has revealed that the Ocellus and the Xenomorphs have a very complicated relationship. In fact, they may as well be natural enemies. With this in mind, perhaps the Eye-Octopus will take center stage on the series because the Xenomorph considers it an equal. Only time will tell. While most alien species in the Alien franchise resemble animals, the D. Plumbicare stands out because it's actually very plant-like. However, the bulbous pod is just as dangerous as other aliens. Think about an animal that looks like a plant. In fact, the crew knows this creature is fauna presenting itself as flora. Very sneaky. The D. Plumbicare hasn't had a proper introduction on the show, instead staying in the background, still closed. However, it could be a trap for the crew and the audience. The plant is set to open soon, and since it doesn't take a genius to notice that this plant will be a lot like a Venus flytrap, things are about to get messy. In fact, if you pay attention to the trailer, you'll notice a very human silhouette inside it, likely its first victim. The Plumbicare kills in 3 different ways. Its victims will be asphyxiated inside it, dissolved by its acid, or simply die by exhaustion while trying to escape. As of now, the D. Plumbicare is still closed and no human force will open it, likely because it recognizes its surroundings as a threat to its own health. However, this creature is also very alert to everything happening on the ship. In fact, the crew members have noticed it reacting to their presence, which is very creepy. Since Alien Earth premiered less than a month ago, the series hasn't had the time to delve into some of the new alien species. For example, the blood ticks. These creatures are exactly what you expect, mite-like insects that will parasitize on other living beings. These alien ticks burrow on the skin of other creatures and basically suck them dry, engorging as they get full of their blood. That is disgusting. Contrary to Earth ticks, these alien creatures can grow way bigger while drinking blood, as they turn into horrific blood bags the size of a newborn. They can kill a person and leave them a dry carcass. But is that it? Of course not. The Alien franchise is extra, so things may be more complicated than that. Some fans think that the Alien Earth blood ticks reproduce incredibly fast, so it will only be a matter of time before there are billions everywhere. Think of a spider protecting its eggs, but way, way worse. Other viewers believe these vampiric ticks aren't in the final phase yet. Instead, they are in the first stage for a creepier, blood-sucking monster that it's on its way into the series. Not only that, but some viewers even believe that we have already seen yet another stage of this creature, the flying bug. Blink and you'll miss it, but the first scene of Alien Earth shows that one of the cargo boxes on the ship contains a big flying bug marked as 005-1. This creature is inside the amber, wet walls of the cage, so we only have the faint idea of a silhouette so far. It looks like a fly the size of a big dog, or perhaps even a wolf. Marketing for the series revealed glimpses of a bug-like creature with wings and bug legs, but the series hasn't shown anything yet. Of course, we're eager to know more about the giant flies. Are they the big bad evil guy of Alien Earth? For only 5 episodes, Alien Earth has already treated the fans. We've seen new species that are obviously on the way to changing the Alien franchise completely. We're about to see these creatures wreak havoc on Earth after all the time the franchise has steered clear of the planet. They've expanded Alien in a way similar to how Andor expanded Star Wars. I'm really enjoying it so far. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, thanks for watching CBR.